with colistin-resistant infections. And once the bug is colistin-resistant, literally there is no effective antibiotic to treat colistin-resistant infections. And the mortality is really high. Such outbreaks have occurred across the world. It's not just carbapenem resistance now, it's a colistin resistant, and colistin is a last resort antibiotic. 2/3 of the antibiotics used across the world are used for growth promotional usage in the veterinary practice. Farmers are feeding poultry, pigs, and cattle with antibiotics. Only 1/3 of the antibiotics manufactured in the world are utilized for human purpose, 2/3 for veterinary purpose. And colistin resistance, because colistin is one of the most popular antibiotics for growth promotional usage. Growth promotional usage means you feed animals with antibiotics, they grow fat and fast. And colistin is one of the most popular antibiotics used as a growth promotional agent. And colistin is a last resort holy water in the clinical practice, and that is extensively used in the animal world as a growth promotion. Because of that, the colistin resistance is reported in the animal samples, in the environment, and of course, in humans. The extensive colistin usage in the animal world is creating transmission of colistin resistance from animal to humans with a gene called as MCR1. MCR1 is a plasmid gene, so easily transmitted from animals to humans. More than 30 countries have reported presence of colistin resistance in food samples and presence of MCR1 bacteria, MCR1 positive bacteria with a danger for transmission to humans. But there was no paper in India. So last year, we analyzed more than 100 food samples from Chennai, and we found half of the samples are positive for colistin resistance. It's not just Chennai scenario. Whichever part of the country you test food samples, you will get colistin-resistant bacteria. We've published the paper, and some of the E. coli were positive for MCR1. This is the first Indian report on the presence of colistin-resistant bacteria in food samples and MCR1 gene in the food E. coli bacteria with the potential for transmission to humans. And this is a newspaper. Many newspapers reported the publication, and this is one article appeared in Hindu. Waiter, there's bacteria in my salad. After the publication of this article, we communicated the data with Union Health Ministry, with other relevant ministries. We created a lot of noise. Now the ministry is in the process of banning growth promotional usage of colistin. China has banned growth promotional usage of colistin in 2016, but China was exporting to India, and India still using colistin as a growth promotional agent. And we are going to ban growth promotional usage of colistin. It will be gazetted at anywhere within the next few weeks. What we found was not just the presence of colistin-resistant bacteria in the food samples, and not just the MCR1, because in the clinical practice, we don't bother much about MCR1. MCR1 gene is predominantly seen in E. coli, and most of my colistin-resistant Klebsiella, and across the world in the hospital practice are not E. coli, they are Klebsiella. And Klebsiella, the main mechanism of colistin resistance is not MCR1, but chromosomally mediated MGRB or other relevant, other similar genes. Because they are not the plasmid mediated MCR1, but the chromosomal mediated genes. So people like me believe that colistin resistance in clinical practice will never be a problem because it's chromosomal mediated, and chromosomal mediated resistance mechanism usually won't produce any major outbreak. MCR1 is plasmid, NDM1 is plasmid, KPC is plasmid, but MGR mutation or PHOPQ are in the chromosome. So, if the infection control in the hospital is very good, even if you have 1 or 2 patients with colistin-resistant bacterial infections, it will never produce a major outbreak. That's we all thought till 2015. But 2015, across the world, especially Mediterranean countries and South Asian countries, the pattern started changing. We started seeing increasing prevalence of colistin-resistant bacterial infections, chromosomally mediated, especially MGRB mutation mediated colistin resistance. So what happened? So scientists look into the picture. 2 years ago, more and more publications, especially from Italy and Israel, started appearing because of the insertion sequences, this chromosomally mediated MGRB or similar mutation started spreading to other bacteria through insertion sequences. Insertion sequence helped the transmission of the gene, MGRB mutated gene, from chromosome to plasmid, plasmid to the chromosome of the other bacteria. So we started seeing outbreaks of chromosomally mediated colistin-resistant bacteria, Klebsiella, in clinical practice, and we are really concerned. So when we identified colistin-resistant Klebsiella in the food, we thought anyway MCR is not a problem in clinical practice. Why can't the MGRB mutation in the food Klebsiella through insertion sequence spread to humans? And I did a literature search. Nobody has ever looked for MGRB mutations in food Klebsiella. And nobody has looked for MGRB mutation spread through insertion sequences in fruit Klebsiella. There are plenty of publications in human Klebsiella. So we thought, why can't we do a sequencing? And we found MGRB mutations as the cause of Klebsiella colistin resistance in the food Klebsiella. And we found plenty of insertion sequences helping these MGRB mutations spreading around. That's really a cause of concern. I'm not bothered about MCR1 because it's not a clinical problem for me. I'm bothered about MGRB gene mutations. And such mutations are in the food Klebsiella, and there are insertion sequences helping the transmission of this bacteria among the food bacteria. Now what we need is the evidence that it can spread from food to human, from food Klebsiella to human Klebsiella. So what happened? Why nobody else has ever looked for MGRB mutations till last year? After our publication, 1 or 2 teams have published details on food Klebsiella with MGRB mutations. So why the scientific world forgot about the MGRB mutations in food Klebsiella? Because they were all obsessed about the MCR mutations, and everybody ran PCR for MCR, and everybody forgot about the clinical importance of the Klebsiella colistin resistance. So this is the details from our paper, and we for the first time identified MGRB mutations in the food Klebsiella. It's a well-known resistance mechanism in human Klebsiella. We published the paper and we sent the paper to the health ministry and the relevant ministries. I'm sure our data has helped the ministry to fast track efforts to get the colistin banned. Not yet banned, but it will be banned in near future. And then we need to find similar bacteria in the humans. And recently we screened our patients, stool samples, hospitalized patients for colistin resistance. We found half of the patients are carrying colistin-resistant bacteria in their gut. And they are not the hospital colistin resistance. They are the typical food phenotype, resistant to colistin, sensitive to carbapenem, and sensitive to most other antibiotics. The typical, the food Klebsiella. So half of the patients are carrying the food colistin-resistant Klebsiella. And now we have started screening healthy volunteers across the country, and I'm seeing the preliminary result, plenty of healthy volunteers are carrying, as expected, the colistin-resistant bacteria in their gut. So that's our stage. So it's time that we should ban colistin as a growth promoter. We are facing opposition from poultry industry, but we are going to ban colistin as a growth promoter. And we could provide a new perspective to the colistin resistance. The colistin-resistant bacteria in the human, the Klebsiella colistin-resistant bacteria, because of MGRB mutations in human, could be, it's just a hypothesis, could be related to the colistin resistance Klebsiella MGRB mutation in the food. But we need to prove a link, and we are still working on it. We are going to present more data in the next few months, and we do have the evidence that it could be transmitted from the food to humans. India published a national antibiotic policy in 2011, but it was not implemented. So in 2012, we produced a Chennai Declaration by medical societies in India. And 2013, we published the Chennai Declaration 5-year plan to help the implementation of national policy and Chennai Declaration recommendations. And the Chennai Declaration initiative significantly created a significant attitude change among medical society, medical community in the country. And similar initiatives from other countries and governmental efforts, non-governmental efforts, and organizational efforts created the UN Political Declaration on AMR. In 2015, the WHO published the Global Action Plan signed by 194 countries, including India. As a part of the Global Action Plan, India prepared the National Action Plan in 2017. But India, the National Action Plan prepared by Delhi, our committee, but should be implemented by the states. India has 29 states and 7 union territories. Now, as a part of the National Action Plan implementation, Kerala was the first state to release a state action plan. Unfortunately, the goodwill of the state was misused by the pharmaceutical industry. We thought that pharma industry is the opposition for AMR action plan implementation. But pharmaceutical industry got into the action plan implementation as a part of they claim that they're helping us, but in fact, they were trying to monopolize the AMR action plan implementation. So it's very important. Pharmaceutical industry, like all other stakeholders, is a very, very important stakeholder for the National Action Plan implementation. But there is a Lakshmana Rekha that we have to draw where to keep the industry. The industry should never be allowed to influence the action plan, should never be allowed to influence the neutral implementation of AMR policy. That's extremely important. We need industry, but we should know where to keep the industry. Thank you.
Any questions? We'll take maybe one question, if you have. Seemingly, we plan to keep date with our lunch. So let's give a big hand once again to all the speakers. And we thank the chair, Dr. Jayakumar, as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir, for your wonderful talk. Now, may I request Professor Jayakumar Rajdas to present a memento to Professor Harpal Singh. May I request Professor S. Sundar Manoharan to present memento to Dr. Abdul Ghafur. May I request Professor Samuel Raj sir to present the memento to Professor S. Sundar Manoharan. Now I request audiences to please proceed for the lunch, and we will be come back to auditorium sharp at 2:45. And I request the audiences and delegates to visit the sponsored stalls also.
And all those who are presenting the posters, the evaluation would be starting. So be present there. Thank you.